Michael Knowles pummels an absolutely insane, triggered leftist lawyer, I may add, after she tries to bring up a bunch of complete falsehoods about Donald Trump and the phony prosecution that he has been subjected to. Guys, this is gonna be a fun one. I think you're gonna enjoy it. It's pretty funny too, because this lady's a lawyer and she still can't figure out what Trump did that was illegal. Just shows how intelligent our judicial and legal system has gotten. But that's a conversation for another time. So we're gonna get right into it. But first, everybody, please make sure you like our video, share it around, and yes, subscribe to the Resist the Mainstream channel. That way we can keep bringing you more videos of leftists getting owned and the like. As always, I'm your host, Darian. Let's get into the show.
Michael, look, I do think there's a ridiculous double standard here that will come back and bite the Democrats. For the reasons that Mark Garagos said about historically, you've seen this coming a mile off, where both parties starting to ratchet up this concept of kind of going after each other's leaders in criminal courts. I mean, you see this normally in banana republics, not in the United States of America. And it really does worry me, as someone who loves America and loves Americans, what this is leading to. Because if all that happens in each term of office is one party trying to incarcerate the other's leader, I don't know where that leaves America in a few years' time.
Fair question.
Well, this will only come back to bite Democrats if they lose their grip on power, and obviously they don't think that they will. This is why President Biden the other day, when he was walking out of a press briefing, was asked, Mr. President, Donald Trump says that you are imprisoning him because he's your political rival. What do you say to that charge?
Well, I'll stop you there. We have the clip. Let's play the clip.
Mr. President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign?
What an arrogant.
I mean, you look like Jack Nicholson in The Shining at the end of that. But yeah, I mean, Michael, to pick up your point there, that's the clip you're referring to.
Yes, and it's pretty clear this is not a man who thinks that he has to be accountable to the American people. When you look at the federal charge against Trump, there was a poll that came out when that charge was brought that showed 62% of Americans think that it's primarily politically motivated. They just don't seem to care. And so this has been a ratcheting up, as we've all noted on the panel, of trends that have been built up for some years now. Some would say going back to Richard Nixon. But certainly in the early Trump campaign, the Democrats tried to stop him from being president by spying on him and cooking up fake intelligence, ironically enough, with Russia. That didn't work. Then they tried to throw him out by impeaching him twice. That didn't work. Then they tried to kick him out by rigging the election and changing all the voter rules, in some cases in contravention of state constitutions leading up to that election. That did get him out of office, and he did leave office, but then he didn't go away. He kept running again. So then they indicted him 4 times. Now they've convicted him. They're going to threaten to throw him in prison. Pretty soon they're going to threaten to send him to St. Helena. But this has absolutely nothing to do with the law. As was noted earlier, at most you're talking about a misdemeanor that would have already expired under the statute of limitations. I'm not even convinced that there was really a misdemeanor that Trump committed. So my fellow panelist here is celebrating that the rule of law has been vindicated and overturned 234 years of American legal tradition. I would challenge her to see if she could possibly articulate how and what crime Trump committed, because so far Alvin Bragg, the DA, has failed to do so. The judge in the case, Judge Merchan, has failed to do so. And they can't do it because Trump didn't commit any of the crimes for which he's been convicted.
Well, let's just ask quickly, before I go to Kevin. Francesca, just on that point, what crime did Trump commit?
Her face.
It was financial crimes. It was white collar crimes. That is exactly what they charged him. He was convicted on.
What was the crime?
It's New York State law.
I understand. What was the crime?
It is New.
Francesca,
I don't even like it. It is.
Well,
it's the law. You notice how she can't articulate it, nor can anyone else? It's such a joke. Let's not forget that Alvin Bragg, that stupid Manhattan DA, he literally ran on jailing Trump. That was his campaign. You're gonna tell me that this is a unbiased and objective and fair judicial system? That it's not politically corrupt? Please. It's such an obvious facade. People are seeing right through it. Thank God. Some people aren't, namely the normies. I don't know why. It's kind of crazy, but some normies are too, so I can't hate on the normies too much. Point being, the whole thing's a sham. And anyone with a brain and some faculties of reasoning and who's not totally duped by the media can see that. It's all fake. And I'm just gonna say, if Trump is gonna go down, because he's such a terrible criminal, well, there are at least 500 other politicians who probably should go down first. Then we could talk about what crimes Trump might have committed. It's so fake.
Francesca, what was the crime?
Of like cooking the actual books.
What was the crime?
You are not allowed. So you are not allowed to to use your own financial, like your own money to pay off somebody, and then he logged it as something different. He logged it as just a regular payment, but he was actually paying off this star to keep quiet, which, if he hadn't been running for president, would not have mattered, but he was, and so it impacted campaign finance laws in New York State. Okay, that is what Juan Merchan just oversaw this.
Okay.
Alvin Bragg brought these charges because...
Oh, Juan Merchan, that super corrupt judge? Yeah, he's so official and unbiased and fair. Just give me a break. The lawyer lady over here can't even name the crime. It's such a joke. And look, I'm going to say something controversial. I think most lawyers are honestly just corrupt hacks and frankly not that intelligent people, at least nowadays. And it shows with people like this. And guess what? Most of them are Democrats because they go to university and then graduate school and they get brainwashed into leftism. They hate the Constitution and they don't even know what it is half the time when you ask them. I've had real experiences with this, by the way. It's pretty concerning.
That's not quite what happened.
Already sentenced to 3 years to do it.
Let's just go before Kevin. I'd be very, very, very patient. We'll come to you.
Look, I'm no expert. Let me just say, hang on, Michael.
Francesca,
you are no expert.
By the
That's
way.
right. The campaign finance law is a federal law.
Hang on,
Anyway,
Francesca. I want to go to Mark. You're the lawyer. Is anything Francesca just said, is that actually the crime?
Look, let me just say, I like Francesca a lot. And we probably agree on 80% of our worldviews. However, Francesca, the way you just described it, call me afterwards and I'll educate you, because that's not what happened. There was no theory that was given to the jurors. The jurors were told it could have been campaign finance, it could have been tax, it could have been false books. They were told they didn't have to specify, and specifically told they did not have to agree unanimously. That's what irks me. Lifelong Democrat, no fan of Trump, never voted for Trump, never will. But I will tell you, as somebody who has spent his entire career kind of taking on unpopular causes and holding the government accountable, I have to tell you, I do that for a reason. And the reason is this kind of shenanigans, and that's the best light I can spin it on, in the criminal courts has no place in a federal election.
I don't mean to...
Boom! Francesca just got cooked. Take your tacky red shirt and Golden Gate Bridge background and get out of here, Francesca, because it is over. That was brutal.
I mean to pick on Francesca too much here, but it's very telling that even the liberals who are going on television to defend this ruling have to Google in the breaks to figure out what the crime was. and even then, I'm sorry to say, misrepresent what the actual supposed crime was. The reason here that this has to take... Well, excuse me one second, Francesca. I'll just finish my point real quickly.
Books. That's the same thing.
Yeah. It's not a felony, not a crime. But anyway, that's a point for another time. The reason why even the great defenders of this conviction can't... yes, to you as well. The reason that they can't articulate this is because it's not really a crime. That's why they had to upend 234 years of precedent for this. And it gets back to a point that you made earlier, Piers, and that you made, Kevin, which is that Alvin Bragg really overplayed his hand. Sure, he overplayed his hand to some degree, but what else were they going to do? Donald Trump was always going to be the Republican nominee in 2024. A lot of people feel that he was gypped in 2020. He's the biggest guy in the party. It was going to happen. And Trump poses a real threat to the liberal establishment. He's not a Mitt Romney type Republican. He has different views from the so-called uniparty on things like trade, on things like immigration, and things like foreign policy and war. Trump posed a major threat. That's why they took such extraordinary measures for the last 8 years to take this guy out. They weren't able to do it politically. They weren't even really able to do it at the ballot box. So what's left? The only thing left to do is to try to throw him in prison so that he can't campaign for the election. I agree, it's backfiring.
This is not a federal case, Michael. You know that. It's not even a federal case. Why do you think that it's not a DOJ case? It's not a Biden case. It's not a Merrick Garland thing. It's New York State law. So the idea that this is somehow politically motivated is all made up in your head, because what you do on your show every day is you groom your audience for fascism and you set them up for a complete takeover of the DOJ. This is all about allowing Trump to get away with any crime he wants, as you sort of slighted and sort of, laid out very nonchalantly just a little bit ago. He was impeached twice. Doesn't really matter that he tried to blackmail the leader of Ukraine into digging up non-existent dirt on Joe Biden, but that doesn't matter to you
Joe
or
Biden
your
threatened to withhold arms.
You want to make sure. You want to make sure that when Trump is reelected, can get away.
That's a big.
He can
Francesca,
get away
you're
with
accusing me
getting
of
rid of the
fascism. That's a
Department
big
of Education.
charge. All I would point.
Timeout. To Francesca's super dishonest point about digging up non-existent dirt on Joe Biden, she seems to have conveniently forgotten, or maybe she hasn't forgotten, that Joe Biden quite literally threatened to withhold aid from Ukraine because there was a Ukrainian prosecutor he wanted fired. Why did Biden want that prosecutor fired? Well, one can only speculate, but here's a fun fact about that prosecutor. He was investigating, drum roll please, that's right, he was investigating Burisma Holdings. What was that company? Well, Hunter Biden was sitting on the board getting paid tens of thousands of dollars a month, even though he had no experience in the energy sector. Little fishy, isn't it? By the way, it's not a conspiracy theory to say that Biden did this threat. He brazenly bragged about it on national television.
So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch.
And 2 years later, we hear this whining from the Democrats nonstop. Ooh, quid pro quo. Impeach Trump. He's so evil and orange and terrible. Ooh, Biden did nothing like that. Really? Really? Okay.
Is that it's not my party that's imprisoning its political opponents.
Right.
So if we're going to throw that accusation about it.
I was about to say, one of the key tenets of fascism is you imprison your political opponents. Trump said, my revenge will be success.
Stupid.
These are bad people. And he said, it's going to be success will be the best revenge. Do you think that's how this plays out?
It's the only way that it can play out, because as I think most of us on the panel have accepted, there is not going to be some fair legal conclusion to all of this. The only way that this plays out is if the political system in America is not wholly corrupt. It's only substantially corrupt. Biden smirks when he jokes about jailing his political opponents, but it's not wholly corrupt, and the American people can bring enough civil pressure to bear to push this guy back into the Oval Office. That is going to be the only way that this ends.
If he doesn't win the election, Michael will absolutely respect the results of
Well, you know what
Biden
he'll say,
win,
Francesca?
correct?
And this time with good reason. He'll say, hey, for 2 months of the election year, when I should have been campaigning, I was being put through a criminal court trial over having sex with a porn star 20 years ago. And you know what? A lot more people will have empathy with him this time than when he falsely claimed he had the 2020 election stolen from him without any evidence. So unfortunately,
Absolutely. I mean, who among us
again,
hasn't-
the Democrat machine to shut Trump down has played right into his hands.
I love how Francesca was about to give Piers Morgan some stupid, smart-ass response, and then he just cut her off and kept going. Good, as he should. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really hope you enjoyed the video. Please be sure to comment below. Let us know what you liked, what you want to see next. And we'll see you guys again very soon. Thank you, and God bless.